This is a sketchbook page that I started and wanted to abandon because this composition is flawed and there's nothing I can do at this point with more ink to change that. The problem with this drawing is that it's split in half. It's like this part and this part are the same size. It's right in the middle. There's really nothing I can do. So one of the things that I do sometimes, well, first of all, one of the things I often do is just abandon this page and move on to something else. But the other thing I do is maybe add in a collage element. So this is a piece of paper. This is a color I don't usually work with, but I'm going to add some paper to this composition and work over the top. I like ripped edges. I think they're kind of fun. So maybe, I don't know what I'm going to do, but sometimes I just like to cover up even the things I don't think are working. I don't particularly like this part right here. So maybe I just go like this and then see what happens. Or maybe I cover up, no, okay. I set myself up for disaster here again because I do the same thing if I did this. I would be breaking this composition in half if I added this whole other piece of paper. But I don't know. Maybe actually, this is what I'm thinking about now. Sometimes, again, it just takes some play. What if I start working in this whole page like this? That kind of could work. I could see that working. So this might be a good spot for me to glue this down. So I like working with glue sticks with this because it didn't leave much of a mess. So these are great, these Yoo-hoo glue sticks. I've been using these for years, so I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on the back of this paper. And then cover up. And also see, there's some ink that bled through on the back of this page, this last page, so that's a good place to cover this up too. So I'm going to do this like this. Because then I've still got some interesting things going on here, and I haven't divided the paper like in half, and then I can start working right over the top of this, and we'll see what happens. Maybe I will continue this shape. Maybe I'll make some more shapes, but there's lots of possibility now for this composition. Well, if you hear any noise while I'm doing this, it's because I have a cat in here that won't leave me alone, so he probably will jump up here at some point too. So what I think I'm going to do here is just start from what's already there. So I am going to just kind of, maybe I'll connect. Oh, there he is. I told you. Okay, so he's kicked out again. So let's get started here. So I'm going to start, like I said, I made this line that connected these shapes that already were there. And I'll do this too right here. But I'm not going to do all of it because otherwise it's going to make I'm going to have the same problem if I just try to recreate what was already there. But this already seems better. I've made things, I don't know, make more sense now, and there's much more flow in this composition. So I start from there. So I don't want it to be super, maybe I do. I don't know, maybe I want it to change direction. No, I'm probably going to connect a little bit. So I'm going to have a little bit of this. I'm going to make this shape in the purple kind of connect to the existing shape. Now, the pen's going to look different on this paper. It's got a little bit of sheen on it, and it's kind of sparkly. So it's going to look different, but we'll make it work. And then I'll go from there. So sometimes that's a really good idea from working abstractly, is to build off of what you've already got there. Always thinking about the composition. I know it's not always intuitive at first, but the more you do this, the easier it's going to be for you to make something that makes sense. So I'm mimicking some of the shapes I already have here, but maybe a little bit bigger, change the scale. Create some variety, which always is a really good idea when making compositions. You don't want everything to look exactly the same because it gets boring. So by playing around with size, I can do that. Again, I'm building off that what was already there to make it kind of look like these drawings weren't always thought of as, they weren't started basically separately. That was a complete thought, which again, it's okay if it doesn't happen that way. And I'm working in my trusty, this is a Moleskine notebook. It's a real small one. It's like a 3x5 page. And this is a black Parker pen, which is basically all I use right now. Black or a blue Parker pen. I often work off of edges like this and feather strokes away. And remember, if you've watched any of my stuff, you'll see that I often work kind of up to down. But I know a lot of other people who are not left-handed like to work the other way. So whatever makes sense to you when you're working with ballpoint pen. And again, just because I do something some way, I hope that you find what works for you. It might not be this. And I turn my paper as I work. And you see already I've kind of changed the flow of this composition. It's no longer just so like half and half, because all that part over here that was too heavy is gone. I don't know where I'm going to go from here. I don't always have a thought, but I'm going to keep working off of that edge and seeing where this composition takes me. I also don't know if I'll use this whole page, if I'll use this whole format. I may just, this might just kind of end. Because it's in my sketchbook too, like, I don't know. It's all like little experiments. You don't ever have to be precious with these. And if they don't work out, they don't work out. But if there's a good moment in here and you enjoy making it, that's really what it's all about. I don't have any pressure anymore to make something that is finished or saleable. I just make to make. That kind of changes up all my work. If I put pressure on myself to make stuff that I think someone else is going to like, it's usually not all that great. If I just make stuff that I like and I enjoy making it, which I do, then it's usually pretty good. It's when you put pressure on yourself that trouble happens. You see how I'm making kind of a braid shape? So I'm just building this other little bit of braid off of this, and then I'll put another one here, maybe. Yeah, that'll work. Another good tip when you're working, if you're adding collage elements, is test the paper first. Because there are certain papers, like I didn't think about this a whole lot. I just have a whole bunch of this. It's like a notepad that I got from somewhere. But test the paper to see how it's going to accept the ink. Because sometimes there's certain papers that are just not going to be happy with the ballpoint pen on them. But this one is pretty nice. I like what's going on here. It's fun. The other thing you have to think about too with adding collage elements to a composition is that the paper needs to be, a light enough value that you can still create some contrast and variety on it. Like I think if this was in any darker purple, it wouldn't be the best to work on because you wouldn't be able to see the ballpoint that well. Or there wouldn't be much difference between the dark and light. Because look at how much already like the dark and light here, the contrast between the dark and the white of the paper versus here. There's a difference, and so that matters.
Baby, you give me ice and fire.
I created this kind of leaf-like shape, which I use a lot in my work. And so then what I do then is to make it look like one shape is going under another, I go dark right up against that edge. If you've seen any of my work, you've seen me do that before. I do that a lot. I like that play of under and over. And it's a real easy way to do it. So I'm going really dark right up against that edge. And then lightening up on my touch so that I have a transition from that dark black to light. I'm going to do the same thing right here. I'm going to go darker a little bit right here. Again, remember the only thing about ballpoint is you can't go lighter again. Once it's there, it's there. So you have to kind of let that be. I guess, I mean, I could play with another medium in here. Maybe I will. Maybe that'll be something I do. But I don't know. So you can see I've been, like I was probably I've been recording for 10-ish or so minutes, and that's all I've done. So this is kind of a slow process for me, and I don't mind that. That's also why I work small, but I'm enjoying doing this, so that's what's important. But it takes me time to build these up these values and create these small compositions. So if you're looking for something that's kind of quick, this is probably not for you. And that's okay. You might find something else you like better. I'm never going to try to make something that everybody's going to like, because that's just never going to happen.
Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh.
Okay, let's take stock again. So I like what's going on here. It's mimicking what's going on here, but it's not exactly the same. And now the composition is not so like half and half still. I've got a lot to go, and I don't know. I'm going to have to repeat this. This is one thing with composition. You don't ever want just this. And I love this little mark here, but you don't want it just to live right there and nowhere else, because then it looks like, well, why did you do that? It doesn't look intentional if you don't repeat it. So I'll have to think about where. And oh, there's a little cat yelling at my door again. Let's see how this works out. But maybe right here is the right part to do it. And this is something new I've just been working, that just came up to me. And it's just, just a circle. It's just kind of beady, kind of uneven circles, but I just like the way they work, and sometimes they go real thick on them. It's good to vary the size, so some of them are smaller than others. I always like to work on an even number, so I'm going to leave that one with 3. And then I'll work off of that edge again.
I don't wanna jinx it, baby. And twist myself at the spine. Don't wanna overthink it, baby. It's just twist your body and mine. Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're giving me wind and rain. Some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight.
Notice how I like move my sketchbook around, basically just to make it so it's like comfortable for my hand. It's something I do all the time, and I've always done that with anything I'm drawing. And that was something I picked up from art teachers a long time ago, and that's a really good tip, is to rotate your work. It's good to look at it from different angles, but it's good to work in the direction that like makes more sense for your hand. And again, I'm left-handed, so I know some people are like, this does not work for me. Well, then work opposite. So if does it make sense to work that way, then turn your paper this way and work up. Like that works too. Now I'm seeing, okay, this, I don't necessarily like how this just kind of ends. So I'm going to think about, well, how could I make this part kind of, instead of just ending abruptly, maybe I am going to make it go under or maybe it goes under the paper for a little bit, comes out. I don't know. But I think I'm going to do something like this. like that. Just so I'm not just, it's not so abruptly just ending here. So I'll extend some of these shapes out onto the purple paper.
You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh.
And now I gotta find a way to kind of connect this area to this area. So I'm just gonna connect them. So I'm gonna kind of flow this little bit, these little shapes into what's already going on here. There we go. Well, it kind of makes sense. I'll keep working on this, but I like to once in a while just stop and look, okay, so where am I going with this? How's it going to work? Okay. So other element I've done over here, which is good, again, I don't want to just have that happen once, is these little lines. And I do like the way these straight lines play against all of these more organic forms. So I have to think about where I'm going to use that. And it could actually be right in here. Yeah. The more I think about this, I think I'm just going to keep this. Like, I don't know how much more of this will flow off this page. Maybe, but I get kind of distracted and bored, and maybe I'll just leave it like this, and maybe that will be the end. But I want to repeat the shape. So I think what I'm going to do here, I have a plan. And again, you can see I'm like troubleshooting. I'm like planning on the fly. There are people I know that don't like that. They want to have they want to work with more of a plan, and that's fine too. Everybody's different, and everybody works differently and creates differently. I just found this process, I love this because it's not a lot of thinking and planning. I just get to go and make stuff. So I'm going to start with some straight lines, which are just fun. Again, just feels good just to make straight lines and not with a lot of thought. I might go back and thicken some of these up, but they're not perfect. They're just straight-ish lines. There we go. And I'll still probably work some more darks on top over this, just so this doesn't, because I don't really like the way this is playing right now, these circle shapes next to this. So I'll probably go right over the top. And with all of these moves I'm making, I'm thinking about, again, repeating the shapes that I have, creating a sense of unity. I'm thinking about darks and lights. Do I have some dark values? Do I have some light values? And I'm thinking, does this whole composition blend together? Or does there one part of this that looks like, oh my God, this sticks out like a sore thumb? That sometimes happens. And there are some trips. There are some ways you can fix that. There you go. And it makes those kind of like eye-like shapes kind of stand out. You still see the lines too. And everything flows together a little bit more. I'm probably going to flow this too, right underneath. Let's talk composition again. You see now how I've kind of managed to make the balance shift different, so it's not so equal like it was before. I'll have to put in a little freeze frame over here or something if I can, about what it looked before, so you can see the difference. But seeing this now is like, it's all about this. This has kind of been the focal point, which is great. I'm still going to work over here. It's not quite done, but you can see now I've repeated these elements. I'm probably going to repeat these beads somewhere else, or maybe even over here somewhere randomly. It's always good to have, odd numbers of things. And I'll keep working over here because this isn't done. This isn't done, but you see, I just like the balance more now. It's not so even. It makes a lot more sense to me. I'm going to pick up over here and try to make this part look a little bit more finished. Since I don't have any of this play with dark and light and just have some lines here. So I'm going to try to finish off this little bit right here.
That's me, just my mind. Oh, baby, you give me ice and fire. You're chilling wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Baby, you give me ice and fire. You're channeling wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my appetite. Don't leave me here high and dry. Oh, 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 oh,
I'm using these marks just to kind of plan where these lines will go, and then I'll go back in and fill them in. I'm really into these kind of like, I don't know, little feather or leaf shapes lately. I add them a lot in my work. Don't know why, just something I'm into right now. That'll probably change as I go. If you look back at my work from even a year ago, it looks different than it does today. And that's okay. I'm always trying new things. I'm always evolving. I like that. I like that my work isn't always the same. It's got some similar elements. I mean, I've been working for a ballpoint pen for a really long time, but the way I work with it and the marks I make are always evolving. So right now it's like I'm almost making notes about what I'm going to do, and it doesn't look very finished, doesn't look as polished as it does up here. I'm just making notes about where I'm going to put little leafy seed shapes and where I'm going to put transitions. And then I'll go back in and make it more finished. Right now I'm just notating. Richard, I'll let you in a little bit. I'm just trying to record some video, little boy. I promise I won't stay in here forever. So I'm repeating some of those seed shapes that I put over here, over into here, so it flows a little bit more. Luckily, I'm not recording audio right now. I'm just recording video. All right, take a stop. Take a look here. See what evaluate where I've come. This is close. I feel like I might repeat the straight lines somewhere because it's good to have things in groups of three. So maybe this gets a little straight line action going on here to repeat a third time. And then I'll clean this up this edge, and then I'm going to call a day on this one. I could use this page, but I'm just gonna stop it there. Sometimes I get bored and tired and I just want to stop. So that's probably what I'll do, but I'm gonna turn my page again, add some straight lines. Don't have to be perfect. Just relax, make some lines, make some marks. If you don't know what to do sometimes in your sketchbook, sometimes just making simple straight lines over and over again is a great way to start. Get your hand loose, get your mind loose. Just practice mark making. Yeah, that's already better. It's already better. I'll add a little bit more shading and I'm about done. I quite like some of the scribbly mark that I've got down here, so I'm going to keep it, but I don't want it to look like it's totally separate than this, so I'm going to throw in some of these more, look how, see, it's more refined and soft up here, so I'm going to do some of that to this and then soften it a little bit so it looks like it's not a different drawing, but I like this mark. Sometimes it's fun to play with things that are a little less polished. Oop, and then look at that. Edge got a little screwed up, so I'm going to make it intentional. Put some more little marks in there like I did it on purpose. I'm going to call this one done. And I think I saved it. Well, maybe not. I'll probably nitpick just a tiny bit more, but I like this so much more now. I like the way this one feels now. It doesn't feel so like split in half equally. There's some repetition of marks. I've repeated these little shapes, these little round shapes. I've repeated the feathery leafy shapes. I repeated the straight lines and the loops. There's definitely kind of more of a focal point. My eye is drawn to up at this part the most, which is what you want. You want one area of that drawing to kind of grab you, and that's probably it. But it all flows, and I like it. So I hope you enjoyed that. See you next time.